Today's Animal Spirits is brought to you by our friends at YCharts. Although the YCharts report builder was launched only a year ago now, quickly become one of the most popular features on the site. A lot of different options here. We actually used YCharts report builder to build a 10 slide report for one of our portfolio models, right? And you can sort of mix and match, drop and drag, 30 different modules you can use. The drag and drop is easy because you can use all their visuals, your own visuals. It's great because it's very easy. There's no clunkiness. I've used PowerPoint for years and years and years. I'm still not good at it. So I feel like these templates, it's the easy button for financial advisors, right?
Right.
Because getting them to look nice is the hard part. Like, I can do all the graphs and stuff, but I can't make them look nice in PowerPoint. You know, in PowerPoint, when you move something over and it's got those dotted lines and you're trying to like match stuff up, it never works.
No, never.
It's always hard. Check out Report Builder for yourself. Click the link in the show notes. 20% off that first subscription to YCharts. Tell them Animal Spirit sent you. New customers only. Hit that link in the show notes. YCharts.com.
Welcome to Animal Spirits with Michael and Ben. I was going to start the show with some notes, some observations from my trip to California, and we'll get to that. But Ben, I am piping mad right now, steaming hot. Let me set the stage. Let me rewind the audience for those who weren't listeners at the time. I'll fill in some of the blanks. I went to Miami Heat Boston Celtics playoff game in Miami. This was, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. And I bought the tickets on StubHub. And as I'm getting ready to hop in an Uber to go down to the game, I looked to my wallet and there's no tickets. The seller never delivered the tickets. And StubHub never contacted me. This was like 90 minutes maybe before the game. So now I'm steaming mad, trying to find new tickets. I had to buy another ticket, and the prices had gone up. I don't remember how much, but I had told this story on the show. I was mad at the time. Let's say it was $150 more than my original ticket, and it was worse quality seats. StubHub said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Batnick. There's nothing you could do." And I said, "What do you mean you're sorry? You didn't even contact me. I had to find this out that I had no tickets. And now I'm on the hook because I had to pay more money because the seats went up. I had to pay more money for worse seats." So that pissed me off.
The baseline is you're not a big fan of StubHub.
Not a big fan of StubHub.
That's the baseline.
Not a big fan of StubHub. A week ago, it was a Saturday, and it was... Now, I'm giving you the details, but these are important details. They're all part of the pieces to the story. It was 12:05. Kobe and Logan, we had tickets to see Kung Fu Panda at 12:30. I get an email about playoff tickets being available, and I had thought that this was like free season ticket holders, that these were either tickets without fees or better prices or whatever. So I panic bought 3 sets of tickets. And when I say I panic bought, Robin's yelling at me, "Michael, what are you doing? You have to go. The movie starts. You have to go." So I'm like, ah! And so I panic bought 3 sets of tickets. The first set of tickets that I bought, and when I say I panicked, because A, I thought it was a deal, and B, I was running out the door. So I didn't have time to compare. I wasn't shopping. I thought these were good deals. It turns out
There's an
these weren't
investment
good
lesson in here, but I'm going to let it go.
There's a lot of lessons in here. It turns out, and there's part of this is a PSA. It turns out these weren't deals for season ticket holders. These were tickets that anybody could have bought. It was just an auto-blasted email. So I didn't even compare and shop. So I probably
You paid
got
off the rack rates.
Off the rack rates. So for 2 tickets for the game that is yesterday, because the show is coming out on Wednesday, we're taping this on Monday. For the Tuesday night game, I paid $1,100 for a set of tickets. So I thought to myself, as I'm like digesting this news that I overpaid, I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll be able to get my money back, right? Like, and I knew that going in, that I would be able to get my money back. That wasn't really a question. So it's, but I overpaid. So I overpaid. All right, so I'm gonna lose $100 on this set. No big deal. Something like that. Sunday morning, I had listed the tickets on Saturday, and so I split the tickets with a friend of mine, and he is the person that's responsible for the reselling. So I don't know anything about this. I'm new to this. I'm a noob. I'm a noob whale, clearly. I listed the tickets on Ticketmaster and StubHub. and I forgot to like raise the prices higher. So I listed them where I would take a $200 loss. All right, not the end of the world. Annoying, but whatever. Lesson learned, right? Shame on me, hand up. On Sunday morning, which was one of the top, let's call it 20 days of my life, I'm at a dive bar in Los Angeles. Barney's Beanery, I think it was called. Great spot. The cool Los Angeles wind blowing through the windows. I've got a breakfast burrito. I've got a Bloody Mary. I've got the Knicks winning an incredible game. I am on cloud 9.
Put a pin in this one. Bloody Mary is overrated.
Not
Thoughts?
overrated.
Never mind. Keep going.
So I had a buzz and I was, flying high, and I forgot to move the ticket prices higher. So anyway, they sold on Ticketmaster and they sold on StubHub. That's on me. I have no one to blame but myself. So I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. However, so the Ticketmaster, those get delivered immediately to the buyer. The StubHub ones, I have to deliver the tickets. But I'm naked. I don't have the tickets. I can't deliver them.
Right. So that's why you gave us a setup, because you've been through this before where someone didn't deliver.
I've been through this on the buyer side, and it's annoying.
Right.
But as a buyer, StubHub says, sorry, get f***ed. You know what I mean? Like, you're on your own. There's just a platform. The seller didn't deliver the tickets. What do you want us to do? Now that I'm on the other side of this, listen to how they treat the sellers, Ben. So I bought the tickets for $1,100. I sold them for $900. Guess what penalty I'm getting? The full $900. So the full $900. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, so all right, so I'm trying to maneuver. By the way, this is a reverse arbitrage. I'm just locking in losses, just guaranteed.
Oh, between your car lease and this, you're locking in losses all over the place.
I'm just swimming in L's. So all right, so I find out. I go on Ticketmaster, and guess what? There are tickets directly next to the seats that I was section whatever, row 15, seats 5 and 6. So those are the tickets that I should have delivered. So I could have delivered seats 3 and 4 because those were available. So my plan was, what if I just buy those for $1,100, deliver them to the buyer, and now I'll just lock in the $200 loss instead of the full $900 or $1,100 loss, actually. So I asked StubHub, they said, all right, let me contact the buyer. The buyer says, no, we're good. I already bought replacement tickets. So why am I out $900? If there's no harm, no foul, the buyer got tickets. This is unbelievable. How is this fair? I deserve a penalty for inconveniencing the buyer, for costing StubHub an aggravation. I deserve a penalty. But the
$50,
full penalty,
$100 should be on you, not the whole thing.
The full penalty, when the buyer has no recourse. I was on the buyer's side. They get nothing.
I would like to see you.
Not even a credit.
You need to go on Judge Judy for this or something. I feel like this is a Judge Judy case.
The buyer, when I was the buyer and I had to pay $150 more for worse seats, I didn't even get a credit or an apology. Actually, they did apologize over the phone. Sir, I'm sorry, we can't help you. That's what I got. I'm hot. Do you think I have a case to be hot?
40% your fault.
Yeah, fine, fair.
60% StubHub is a racket.
I'll take responsibility for what I did, but this is a racket.
I just think it's funny that you bought replacement tickets on accident. You want to buy another set of replacement tickets. Like, if you do that, you're just going down another rabbit hole of you're going to pay more fees.
Oh my God.
At this point, eat your losses.
They said the best they can do is they'll only charge me 75%. So I'll only take a $425 loss. No, I'm sorry. I'll only take a whatever. No, it's $675. Yeah. Either way, shame on StubHub. Lesson learned. Now, again, I shouldn't have listened on both sites. That was dumb. But hey, you live and you learn, right? So this
StubHub
is a PSA.
StubHub is like the blockchain. If you make a mistake and send money somewhere, gone. Sorry.
So this is a PSA. If you are ever in the market, do not do what I just did. All right. Enough of that.
You know my hedge against this? I watch games on my 70-inch TV and I never go to the game.
Actually, I did hedge. Credit to me. Although maybe I shouldn't speak too soon. I feel like I shouldn't speak too soon because this usually comes back to bite you. But once I realized that I probably was going to be able to get full face value or full, what it says, be able to take a little bit of a loss on these tickets. I bet, right? Because that never doesn't work. I bet on the Knicks. I did a parlay, Knicks and Nuggets to win the series. So if that happens, then I'll be covered. But either way, not a great taste in my mouth. Not a great taste in my mouth.
So you need to find a new app for buying tickets.
I just need to not do that again. But yeah, StubHub is dead to me. All right, so I am in California and I have a bunch of notes. The first thing that I noted was at JFK, which was just completely mob per usual. People are fed up with Clear. People are absolutely fed up with Clear. For people that don't know what Clear is a service that basically lets you cut the line at the security, but now everybody has it. So
It's
the line
useless.
it's completely useless. And it's really to the point now where every time you're on the line, people are like, they should just, right? We had this conversation last time I used it. They should just do this. So I think people are fed up with Clear. That's over. It's a
TSA
good idea.
PreCheck is faster than Clear now in New York.
Yeah. All right. So the first thing that we did was we got our rental car and we drove to the Santa Monica Pier. Robin had never been to California. Obviously, the boys had never been here. So I wanted to show her the beach. And we see there's like a robot on the sidewalk. And it's called, I think it's called the Coco robot. And it's a food delivery thing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the box thing looks like a cooler or something.
It is just, I thought that we were like out of the ZERP excess nonsense business period. This is definitely a byproduct that hasn't died yet. It's just a horrible idea. Looks completely ridiculous. You see it's a box on 4 wheels.
So it's marketing, right? It's more for marketing than efficiency purposes, don't you think?
Marketing for who?
I don't know. Isn't there like a big sign on it or something?
I honestly have no idea. It just
Okay.
struck me immediately as a horrendous idea. All right, what else? Oh, Ben, you've been giving me a little bit of grief for buying expensive clothes for the first time in my entire life. Right? I've bought jeans that are
You have a barbell
Gap.
portfolio though. You have Instagram t-shirts and then really expensive clothes from Nordstrom or something, right?
Bloomingdale's. But it's the first time in my life I've ever been to Bloomingdale's and bought clothes. I needed clothes. I got rid of all my Gap jeans that were like from 2015, literally. Like, come on, those are garbage at this point. Robin bought me a few hoodies from Amazon. I thought it was called Amazon Basics. Now it's Amazon Essentials. Is there a difference?
They just changed the name.
Anyway, she bought me 2 hoodies on Amazon Essentials. Tremendous quality.
Stuff is actually pretty nice.
Like really, really good. So I can't imagine that was more than, I don't know. But if you're in the market for a cheap hoodie, Amazon Essentials. Oh, you know what we got? This is a bit out of order, but we got a lot of emails on you talking about grilled cheese. And I think for a lot of people that have made a grilled cheese with butter, like myself and Ben, there's always like the cheese doesn't really melt properly because the bread burns faster than the cheese melts.
It's true.
So we got a lot of emails saying that mayo is the move. You put mayo on the bread, and it doesn't not for tasting purposes, but mayo burns at a higher temperature or lower temperature. Well, I don't know, whatever. Not a chemist. And so it doesn't burn as quickly, so the cheese melts properly.
My solution to this is I put the cover on the top of the pan so it traps the heat and melts cheese faster.
That's a good hack. We were so we did Disneyland and then Universal. The boys had an incredible time. They liked Universal better, which was surprising to me.
Better rides,
because
right?
Harry Potter World, they've got like wands that there's like a laser on the wand where you could actually do like spells. So you could like open a door and this and that. And Kobe was super into it. And then Nintendo Land was actually phenomenally cool.
And you sent me a bill from a buffet at Disney.
Oh.
And it was, I don't know, $300 or something for a buffet for a family of 4. And I asked you, I assume the place was packed, and you said yes.
Beyond obscene. So yeah, we went to a buffet because you get to meet the characters.
Oh yeah, I've done that before.
Right. So Goofy is walking around, and I got the bill, and I opened it up, and I laughed. It was $350. The for Robin and I, it was $75 each. For the kids, it was $50 each, and Robin and I shared like a flight of like cocktails. Just and the rest of the park.
$50 for a buffet for kids is ridiculous.
I mean, right? It's egregious.
Yeah.
No, I said to Robin, I need to buy more stock in Disney.
I guess so. They have the greatest inflation rate on earth.
I guess there's no limit to what people will spend there, right? Like,
I've got some inflation stuff in the doc here I want to talk about.
all right. Oh, I'm almost done. Actually, I'm not almost done. I'm almost done. I'll keep this quick. We went at Universal Studios. There's this thing next door called like a City Walk. It's like an outdoor mall. We got Mexican food, and I got a Casamigos reposado. Guess how much it cost?
$50.
12.
Oh. Okay.
And I was simultaneously, not bad. And also equal parts angry. The gall. If this place can charge $12.50 and still turn a profit, and other places are charging whatever, I mean, it's just totally nuts. Hey, I was thinking about this eating Mexican food. What are refried beans exactly?
That's good. I don't know. They fry them once and then they smush them in front. Good question. Here's a Mexican question for you. We're getting a little off on tangent here, but when I was in Florida, I ordered a taco dinner, right? How many tacos come in a taco dinner?
3.
3, right? Some of these places, this is shrinkflation. 2 tacos. That is shrinkflation.
That's nonsense.
It's always got to be 3, right? Okay. What else you got?
People were complaining a lot about, oh, you can't go out to dinner anymore for family 4 for less than X dollars. Yeah. Guess what? Niche. I had 2 dinners under $100. Now it was over 100 with tip, but whatever. We had Mexican one night, it was $99. We had Italian the next night, $99 for a family of 4. Don't tell me you can't go out to dinner for less than $400.
$99. I don't know. Some people still find that excessive.
$99 for a family of 4?
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay. I had a great time. First time in my life I was able. So we rented a car, and the boys were cooked by like the 4th day. So we took a drive around like Laurel Canyon, Mulholland Drive. You ever do that before? Like just breathtaking stuff. And then we went down to Rodeo Drive and Beverly Hills. Los Angeles is the G-Wagon capital of the world. Just nothing but G-Wagons. And it got me to thinking. So we're walking, we're driving, and we're on Zillow. And just the houses here are just absurdly expensive. Do you think people in Los Angeles I'm using air quotes, modest $2 million home think they're middle class?
Yes. Every time we talk about incomes or housing prices, people will say, yeah, but if you live here, then yeah. It's got to be just, ugh. I can't imagine being someone moving into a younger person trying to live in a city like that.
No, it's completely impossible. So in conclusion, and I know I hijacked a lot of the podcast, so forgive me, but California is wonderful. I get why people pay to live here. The weather, and we got a lot of emails about this. The grass is always greener, that type of thing. And a few people emailed like, the weather is the last thing you get used to, right? The person in Hawaii got used. He's like, listen, it's just my life now, but the weather is the last thing to go. So the weather here, it's incredible.
I get it. Every time we go there, yes, I say the same thing. Like, God, it's so expensive, but I get why people want to live there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I think that's it for me.
Speaking of California, one of our advisors, Gary Pulford, who is based in the Orange County area, like a month ago asked me, hey, can you give me the historical 30-year returns for stocks, bonds, and cash? I'm doing something for a client. I want to look over a 3-decade period. Sure. So I did stocks, bonds, and cash, S&P 10-year treasuries, and 3-month T-bills as my proxies. And he just wanted the numbers, but I, being the overanalyzer that I am, said I got to look through these numbers a little bit. So I was thinking, so this is 1994 to 2023. A lot of stuff happened there. .com bubble, crash, 50%, 9/11, great financial crisis, housing bubble, housing bust, pandemic, just a lot of stuff, sprinkling some wars in there, right? A lot of stuff happened in that 30-year period. I'm sure I missed, dozens and dozens of other crises or whatever that happened. Stock market over that 30-year period, with a lost decade included there for good measure. 10.1% per year.
Wow.
It's just kind of impressive when you think about everything that happened in that. And we had booms and busts, and there lost decade, and bonds did 4% per year, which is pretty good considering the bear market at the tail end of it. I mean, bonds really did well in the latter 90s and early 2000s. Cash lost to inflation barely, but it more or less kept up. So out of the 30 years, how many of them were 20% gains or more?
Out of the 30 years, how many were 20% gains or more? 18.
Yeah, for calendar year. No, it was like 12, but 19 double digits. But so like 4 out of every 10 years, we're talking a 20% gain. There's only 4 double-digit down years. So 80% of the time the stock market was up, even with all that bad stuff that happened. I just think if we keep talking about how crazy things are, like housing prices are crazy, inflation is crazy, valuations in the stock market are crazy. Think about 10 years from now. Do you think any of these things are going to be lower than they are today? Is inflation going to be lower? Are housing prices going to be lower? Stock, like, there's an off chance there is. Like, it's not 100% historically. It's maybe 95 to 98% for some of these variables. But that's just like the baseline long-term thinking. You can, all this short-term stuff, throw that out the window. But in the long term, over 10, 20 years, is any of this stuff going to be lower? Probably not.
So there are people that have bought into that line of thinking, hook, line, and sinker, and just are long-term investors and don't, and believe that they will be rewarded for taking the risk that they bear. And I'm in that camp, of course. And then there's everybody else who just cannot be convinced that they will be rewarded for the pain that they have to endure. And maybe they're right? Like maybe we do get a lost decade starting today. I don't know. But I guess what I'm saying is that the numbers that you just threw out and the associated context doesn't change anybody's mind who doesn't believe it.
True. And you don't get the people who benefit from the long term don't get that benefit if there aren't people who freak out in the short term.
Right.
You have to have some people lose in order for other people to win in the markets, unfortunately. It's not necessarily a zero-sum game, but some people have to lose. All right, I looked at bonds today. So I did all these different ETFs. ZROZ is one of your favorites, the zero coupon. I did TLT and then IEF, which is 7 to 10 year treasury. IEI is 3 to 7, and then I did the ag. Bonds are still in a pretty decent correction. So zero coupon bonds, forget about it. They're down 60%, but TLT is still down 44%. 7 to 10 year treasury ETF. This is with coupons reinvested. And a lot of these things topped out in like 2020. It's still down 20%. Ag is still down 13%.
Guess what? These are nominal numbers.
True. On an inflation adjusted basis, it's even add another 20% to these.
Yeah, it's way worse.
So TLT is probably in a 65% drawdown right now on a real basis from the highs in 2020. And do you think it's just easier to stomach a bond bear market? Because it doesn't seem, if this was the stock market, people would be losing their minds. Like, we've been in a 4-year bear market and it still hasn't come close to coming back. Do you think it's because it's the math on bonds is easier? Is like, it's going to be hard to ever make up those returns for like a TLT kind of position. But the other ones, the nominal yield is higher now.
Yeah. This is the aftermath of the ZERP era and the inflation. Like, it was really a powerful, explosive combination. And I was thinking about the ZERP era, walking around Los Angeles, seeing all the scooters. Just a reminder of all the dumb shit that got funded. Obviously, the Coco robot.
Do people still use them a lot, though?
I haven't seen anybody on the scooter. I've seen a bunch of scooters. I don't know, but the whole thing with ZERP is like, it just was a mindset. And we had this conversation during it, this debate, like, do we really think that institutional allocators are taking money away from bonds and moving it into venture capital? And I don't think that it was like that explicit, but it was the subconscious attitude of it all, that when money is free and it's cheap and it doesn't matter and you'll worry about the business later, all of this dumb shit. And there's stuff like Uber got funded. Uber's a great example of a money losing company that turned out to be a game changer. But it was just a pervasive mindset that we're on the other side of now. That's all.
The risk taking, yes, I totally agree. But do you think that my question is it easier to stomach a correction in bonds like this? It's been going on for almost 4 years now because you can say,
100%.
well, those losses are the past, but the yields here are now, and I can handle the yields.
Yeah, you don't know, but you have a decent idea of what your break even rate is going to be. You can't predict future rates, but if a stock investor, first of all, people have a lot more money in stocks than they do in bonds, generally speaking.
Right.
And when you're in a 50% drawdown in stocks, who's to say there's no floor, right? Like, if you're in a 50% correction in stocks or crash, that's because things are blowing up, and it probably feels like you could lose another 50% of your money. So it's
Yeah.
it's a totally different thing.
I've said this many times. I still can't believe there weren't more fund to blow ups from people like over leveraging treasuries or bonds that when the rates rose from 0 to 5, that there weren't any huge like long term capital management type situations that someone got just totally wrecked on.
Yeah.
Uh, we've talked for a while about ARK and how even during their huge drawdown, that they weren't seeing any outflows from investors. People were like standing pat. And the Wall Street Journal has a story out this week that says that's finally changing. Investors have pulled a net $2.2 billion from the 6 actively managed funds at ARK, which dwarfs all of the outflows from 2023. So people like stood pat pretty good, and then this year finally they are taking. So total assets are 30% down or something from a high. So they went from 60 billion in assets to like 11 billion now. A lot of that
Whoa.
is the losses too.
Wait, is
So you
this
can
the
see
one ETF or all of our ETFs?
this is all of their actually managed ETF. So I don't know about like the biggest fund, but you can see they finally have some outflows.
Hmm.
Um, and so they talked about they mentioned some people in like Reddit threads saying I'm down like 50 to 60% of all my ARK accounts. I'm not sure what to do. And I've heard a lot of people say this, like, do I just hold on to it as like a lottery ticket still? But listen to these are the last 5 years of returns, including 2024 for their flagship fund, ARKK. Up 36%, up 150%, down 23%, down 67%. Last year, up 68%. This year, down close to 20% again. That, like, when you look at the returns like that, no shade being thrown here at Kathy Wood, but those sound like the returns like my uncle has in his brokerage account, right? They're so all over the place.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons so many people held on, because it's like, I could have one of these 100% years or whatever in this fund, but I can't take after a huge down year, another down year again. So I guess I'm not surprised, but I am a little surprised that it took this long for funds to start coming out of that.
Well,
Those
I think the reason why it probably took so long is because I would guess that the majority of the assets in ARK are satellite positions, right? Of the 60
Yes,
billion at the peak, how much of that represented more than 10% of somebody's portfolio? Like, I'm guessing
right.
the bulk. Were there people that were all in on ARK? Of course there were. But as a percentage of total assets, I'm guessing the reason why most people were able to stomach the volatility is because it was a relatively small-ish position.
Right. Wall Street Journal again today. I don't know if you saw this one. Young Americans are getting left behind by rising home prices and higher stocks. We've talked a lot about this, how young people, out of any group that has gotten screwed these past few years, they're the one that got screwed the most. If you didn't buy a
Yes.
house pre 2022 and locked in a 3% mortgage, you got screwed, and you have a right to complain. I'm giving the green light on that complaint. I'm not a big complainer guy,
Yes.
but I'm giving the green light
Yes.
there. So the Wall Street Journal goes through this, and they interview the people who a newly married couple who can't buy a house, all these things. But then they give some stats. Americans 55 and older grew their assets by $114 trillion at the end of last year, up from 84 trillion just 4 years ago. This is using Fed data. That accounts for nearly 70% of all households, which is 170 trillion or something. Their share sat at 51% 3 decades earlier. Working age adults, meanwhile, with households under 40, have 15 trillion or 9%. Americans 40 to 54 own less than a quarter of all assets, and they had nearly 40% in 2001. And I think these numbers are actually a little deceiving because the baby boomers didn't have a generation of baby boomers to compete with, if that makes sense. Like millennials and Gen X is competing with the largest demographic of all time before millennials, and they've had 40 plus years to grow their assets.
What do you mean?
So like
Because baby
it's
boomers'
gonna
parents like didn't have retirement accounts and didn't live long and didn't have all the assets?
Yes, and they were a much smaller cohort than their kids. So you can see this chart in here that shows it by age. It keeps going up, and the older generations keep having more of the wealth. That's because the rabbit going through the python or whatever, the baby boomers, of course they're going to pull that up because millennials are going to be the richest generation at some point. They're going to get all the money handed down to them at some point.
Right.
So
and
it's
then
not
the
as bad
cycle
as this
will
makes it out to
begin.
be.
The cycle will begin all over again with the next generation complaining.
Yes.
By the way, hold on.
about-
Hold on. Are the millennials going to be more dominant than baby boomers? Probably. We're going to be so much more
Yes,
wealthy than our parents.
Definitely. Yes.
Like in 20 years.
Which a lot of people definitely. Millennials are going to be the richest generation in history. It's numbers. Eventually that's going to happen. There's going to be trillions of dollars handed down.
People
Yes.
being born right now are going to hate us.
Oh yeah, millennials will be the boomers someday.
Yeah.
Definitely. Think about it. In 40 years, they're going to, like, people now say, oh, baby boomers, they bought their house for $8,000. People are going to say it to us like, oh, you bought your house for $200,000 with a 3% mortgage, something like that. That's going to be the case in 30 years. You shared a chart a couple weeks ago about equity allocation percentages going higher and people getting smarter. Vanguard released their How America Saves report, like at least a precursor to it. It was kind of like a trailer. They did a movie trailer for it. We're not releasing the real report yet. And then now for movies, they have trailers for trailers, right? It's like, here's a 15-second trailer for the trailer that's going to come out tomorrow.
It's a teaser for the trailer.
So they said the percentage of participant assets invested in equities as of year end stood at 74%. I think Vanguard manages like $5 trillion in retirement assets. 79% of planned contributions were invested in all equities in 2023, up from 77% in 2022. So those equities just keep going higher. And an all-time high of 64% of all contributions were invested in target date funds, which 2/3 of all money in Vanguard's $5 trillion retirement plans are going all into target date funds. So that's these automatic investments, right? That if you don't sign up for a group of funds on your own, we're putting you in a target date fund. So the equity allocation is just going to keep getting higher and higher. So it's young people who have these automatic investments now. It's going to be people around the globe. So that equity allocation is not, I mean, a market crash would make it fall, but the trend is going to keep being higher than it is now.
Is there gonna be I was thinking for an angle here. I got nothing. I was thinking about like the bridge between this and 24/7 trading. There was an article last week that we didn't get to, but there's a proposal or ideas being floated, and this has come up in the past. But like, is this where we're heading? 24/7 trading for everything?
I really hope not, but it seems like it's inevitable.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know how the operations behind the scenes stuff works there. I guess if it's all computer based, it's not that difficult. But I think during, especially like bear markets, having the off switch is helpful. I think it's a good thing.
It's a great thing. I don't want to be at the screen on Saturday.
Right, you have 17 Slacks to answer. You already have enough on your plate. We got some good memes on that of you working hard and being the person anyway. Last week you brought up Procter & Gamble doing their volume is flat, but their prices are increasing, so their revenue is increasing. Tracy Alloway wrote about this for Bloomberg. She talked about Pepsi. Pepsi's organic sales volume contracted 2% in the most recent quarter, but pricing increased 5%. And then they said in the first quarter of 2023, prices were up 16%, my volume fell 2%. She's showing the shares of Pepsi are at or near all-time highs. And I think, so obviously corporations and consumers were not the cause of inflation. That the government spending in the pandemic were the causes of inflation, right? I mean, you could add a bunch of other things, but it was the supply-driven stuff and then the demand from, all the pent-up demand and the money from the government. That was the two main causes of inflation. I think if you want to figure out like why inflation is being so sticky, corporations and consumers probably don't get enough blame for it. For the fact that inflation,
well,
you mentioned,
how would you
everyone
why would consumers be to blame?
There's no boycotting of, you know what, screw this. Pepsi increased their prices 15%. I'm going to drink Faygo now. There's none of that. People are just going, So there's no consumer substitution going on. On an overall basis, consumers aren't. So this is, or the people with money are just keep spending. So a bunch of people sent us this Chipotle one. What did I say? Chipotle Mexican Grill has increased prices 6 times since 2021. It was among the first restaurant companies to say it would boost its menu prices on delivery apps, and its prices are set to rise further in California, where roughly 400 locations are paying higher hourly wages in response to new state law. Traffic last
You
year,
know
while
who's?
1%
I'm
higher.
sorry. You know which consumer is not to blame for Chipotle's price increases? This guy. I told you 2 years ago that I was boycotting Chipotle, and my Chipotle consumption is down 70% from its highs.
I thought you said you were still eating it.
I've
So listen
had
to
it.
this though. So they're still 8% below pre-pandemic levels of traffic in stores and people going in there, but their same store sales are up. So because their prices are higher, sure, fewer people are coming, but the people who go are still spending money. And so there's a certain amount of people that just won't change their habits. And they'll keep paying higher prices.
Well, me, a man of the people, I've changed my habits.
All right. I don't know if your $75 buffet is actually helping anything at Disney. But and the thing is, I just don't think consumers will. It would take like 10 years of this for consumers to ever change their habits. That's my point. Good luck betting against the steamroller that is American consumerism. I guess that's my point.
Right. Well, yeah, speaking of spending, so Disneyland was packed. Universal was even more packed. I mean, it feels like we're in an absolute boom.
It never went away. I remember someone emailed us and said, some of this stuff used to be seasonal. Now it's year round. Right? For a lot of the travel places.
Yeah.
And I think a part of that is because of work from home stuff. It allows people to take vacations on off seasonal times.
Here's some good news on inflation, Ben. From Carl Quintanilla tweeted this. This is from the CEO of Walmart. Quote, "We are now seeing prices that are in line with where they were 12 months ago. I haven't been able to say that for a few years. The last few weeks, we've taken even more prices down in areas like produce and meat and fresh food. Pretty good."
Walmart is one of the cheapest stores on earth, isn't it? Do you ever shop there? I got Walmart Plus with one of my 19 credit cards I have. It was like, if you sign up for Walmart Plus, you get it for free, whatever it's called, whatever their free delivery service is. And I've been using them for a lot of stuff lately instead of Amazon, household items and food, and they are way, way cheaper than Amazon.
Oh, they
It's not even
deliver.
close.
Interesting.
Yeah, so free delivery if you use the Walmart Plus, which is like their Prime.
So we're a Target household. So the Walmart is, I don't know, 10 to 15 miles from me, and the Target's like 2. So I feel like I'm at Target twice a week just doing a Target pickup.
The pickup, my wife does that a lot.
Yeah.
It's convenient.
All right. We got a few more inflation emails on auto insurance. And apparently there's a thing called social inflation. Ben, do you know about this?
No, what does that mean?
I'll tell you. So here's from the emailer. If a driver hits another person or a piece of property causing bodily injury or property damage, the legal demands and settlements for these type of claims have skyrocketed. What may have been a $100,000 demand for damages 10 to 15 years ago often is now $1 million plus. With commercial large vehicles, some are $25 million plus. With higher settlement and trial costs driving significant costs into the system, often referred to in the industry as social inflation. As the other listener mentioned, many insurance companies are struggling with profitability for this product line, even the best managed ones. The industry can't keep up with the rising ultimate cost of the policies, which are only determined after they're purchased by the consumer.
So the best way to hedge inflation is to jump in front of a car.
That will do it. That will do it. You'll be good for a few years. All right, more green shoots. This is from a Ford dealership in Little Rock. The new 2023 Ford F-150, $10,000 off MSRP. That's different. That's a change from what we've seen over the last few years.
Interesting.
Actually, speaking of,
wait, this also says 1.9 APR for 72 months. So they're buying down rates there too?
Looks like it.
Zerpa's already back, I guess.
I drove the rental car that we got. I got a Tahoe or a Yukon. I don't know. One of those. Just gigantic.
I curse at them every time I go to one of my daughter's soccer games because they take up, you can't get through the parking lot to find a parking spot.
Yeah, just tremendously.
It's like driving a pontoon.
Just
on the
tremendously large vehicles. And I will say parking it was not a lot of fun.
Got to be hard to find a spot, right?
Yeah.
There should be SUV only lots. All right. A lot of people, I feel like people are ready to predict the downfall of this economy at every turn. Like anytime there's like just a little bit of breathing room. And my whole thing about it is, yes, there's going to be a downturn at some point, but I feel like you have to give the U.S. economy the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise. Is that fair?
Yes.
Innocent until proven guilty. So a lot of people were saying last week, because the GDP numbers came in a little bit soft, okay, stagflation is here because inflation is still a little higher and growth is slower. And Dario Perkins put a chart together that shows all of the big developed economies and their GDP growth over the last 4 quarters plotted against inflation. And it looks to me like there actually is some stagflation in places like Germany, UK, Sweden. Definitely not the US, who has by far the best growth of anyone over the last 4 quarters. And yes, things were soft last quarter, but Atlanta Fed is still saying, I don't know, 3.9% or something, over 3% for the quarter, and that could change, obviously. Still pretty strong.
We got data last week on PCE, or people's incomes rose 0.5% in March. This is from the BEA. Spending grew 0.8%. Both figures are in current dollars. So people are making more, they're spending more, and there has to be like an asteroid to knock us off this trajectory. And hopefully not literally, but like this story about people running out of excess savings, and like, is that behind us? Like, are we done with that?
That was like wishful. That was wishful thinking, I think. So this is the transcript posted a bunch of good macro thoughts. This is from Capital One Financial CEO. I think the U.S. consumer remains a source of strength in the economy. The labor market remains strikingly resilient. Rising incomes have kept consumer debt service burdens relatively low by historical standards. When we look at our customers, we see that they have higher bank balances than before the pandemic, and this is true across income levels. On the whole, I'd say consumers are in pretty darn strong shape relative to historical benchmark. The Visa CEO said something similar. TransUnion CEO said something similar. I don't know. The Wall Street Journal had an article about the share of the gross domestic product for the world in the U.S. has gone up since 2010. You can see China has started to come in. Japan has gone down. India has risen quite a bit. India and Japan are on the same level. So the U.S. went from 20% in 2009, 2010 to 27% now or something. I do think the consumerism we have is unique.
Of course,
across the globe.
We're spenders. We just. So I'm thinking. I can't stop thinking about this StubHub situation. The tickets, the tickets that I bought for Tuesday's game were $5.50 each, net of Ticketmaster's ludicrous fees, which is a whole separate topic. Dude, I didn't buy. These are not great seats. I'm not even in the lower bowl. These are in the 200s.
Your return is even worse if you add on the frictions involved in the cost, right?
Yeah, it's terrible. It's horrendous. But
this is the opposite of an asymmetric bet for you.
Yeah, it's horrendous. Now a lot of this is like, obviously it's been forever since the Knicks had a contender, but people are spending $550 like that on like not great seats. I don't know what the get-in price is going to end up being, but it's going to be close to $500 just to get into the building. That's a ton of money. I've never spent that much in my life on tickets.
For 2 people, add in the concessions, getting to the arena, we're probably talking a $1,500 night ish.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
It's a lot of money. Matt Klein had a piece about China saying like, what's wrong with China? And he is showing their retail sales, and if they would have followed trend since 2020, but they stagnate. Remember, our retail sales took a huge jump up and is at a new permanent plateau. China's went down. And he's saying the problem in China right now is people aren't spending enough money. They're the exact opposite of us in terms of their retail presence. We love spending money. Their culture, for whatever reason, it stagnated. All right. I told you last week, I think I mentioned it to you and Josh, I have a friend who is starting a business and it's based in AI, right? And I can't tell.
Based in AI.
Well, whatever. AI is in the name. And I have a hard time telling, like, oh man, this is a wonderful idea, first mover advantage, this is going to clean up, or this thing's going to get wiped off the map by Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, pick your poison. And the FT had this thing about AI talking about they compare conventional VC to Microsoft, Amazon, and their investments in this space. And last year, Microsoft and Amazon both had bigger investments in AI than the whole VC industry combined. I mean, you'd want to think the creative disruption thing would be, in the movie I, Robot with Will Smith, how the biggest corporation in the world is the one that made these robots, right? You would assume with AI, it's like, well, of course there's going to be a new company that comes along that's going to end up being part of or bigger than the Magnificent Seven. Like, it has to be. But what if it isn't? What if it's just these firms just get bigger and stronger?
I mean, I don't want to be so cavalier about the statement, but of course Microsoft's gonna be the winner and Google. I mean, they already have everything, and Amazon.
But
Who's
historically,
competing?
it's kind of like
They're funding these
IBM.
things.
But it's like IBM was there. IBM was the company for decades, and then they just got left in the dust. And so you'd think historically that would be what would happen, but I just don't. It probably won't this time. To your point,
Yeah, this
like the
this is
baseline assumption is these companies are going to get bigger and stronger because of this, probably.
well. There's people in that camp that are like, who's competing with these companies? They're funding all the innovation. Nobody's gonna sneak up on them.
Right.
Nobody
Or if
has
there's a
the
competitor, they're
financial
going to buy.
resources.
They're going to buy
Right,
them.
right, exactly. So there's people that are in that camp, and there's other people that are like, well, look at history, look at the turnover in the top 10, and it's like, come on, this is you have to be open minded to the fact that it's different this time. It absolutely is.
The funny thing is that there's a lot of people who anytime you talk about government intervention or government spending are like, I want free markets like they used to be free, like, which has never really been a thing. Like, the government has always intervened in everything. But if you want to see free markets, this is the Magnificent Seven is free markets because there's been no regulation on breaking them up.
Right.
So we have free markets, and what you get is these huge companies that have no competitors but each other.
Ben, you know what? Like, there's a cohort of people who are upset about buybacks and think that companies should just spend more money on R&D and developing projects, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes,
Apple,
it's a waste of money. What are they doing?
Apple, one of the biggest money makers, best companies of all time, best allocator of capital, et cetera, all the accolades. Bloomberg wrote a piece this week saying that the company spent a decade and $10 billion developing a car that will never see the light of day. It spent 8 years and many billions more creating the $3,500 Vision Pro, a device that won't become a major money maker for years. So I just say this is like, be careful what you wish for. Did Mobison do a piece on this? I feel like I read a piece years ago, maybe just a little more. I can't remember that. Like, R&D is often like a net negative. Like, finding a good use of capital is really, really, really hard.
Right. It's almost like a lottery ticket, right? For a lot of
And
these companies.
oftentimes when these companies are like swimming in free cash flow and whatever, like giving it back to the shareholders is not a bad idea. Let them reallocate it somewhere else.
I was worried about the Vision Pro taking over and people just having headsets to their faces. It sounds like Apple's already cut back on this a little bit, and the demand is lower than they thought. And they said like their planned update in 2025 could be canceled potentially. I mean, you said like the experience is amazing, but there might not be enough apps yet. So you can't exactly call it a failure. But are you surprised that it seems like it had its moment there for a couple weeks, and then I don't know, you don't really hear about it much anymore. You don't see it out and about much unless people are just using it on their couches. But do you think it kind of flopped a little bit?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I think this is like more or less consensus. No, I don't think anybody thought that the Vision Pro was going to be a monster hit. Maybe there's a revisionist history. I don't know. You can fact check me.
It got a lot of publicity when it first came out.
No, of course, and rightfully so. It's a magical product, but I think most people were pretty pessimistic on the prospects for this being like a giant category today. I don't think Apple probably expected it either.
True. All right, let's talk housing prices. I was having a conversation with a friend at a birthday party a couple weeks ago, and we were just kind of doing the thing you do as middle-aged people and talking about like, geez, did you see that new housing development going up and how much they're selling the houses for? Like, can you believe they're selling houses for that much money? It's like this new housing development. It's in a pretty good location, but like $1.5 million to $2 million homes in Michigan, Grand Rapids just seems egregious for not, you're not like on a lake, or it's not like a a really nice place that you'd want to be. And we were talking like, I think the new normal of housing prices is just something people are gonna have to get used to, right? So
Yes, it's not
s-
going the other way.
someone sent me this article from Point Two, and they said, how fast did like the 100 biggest housing markets in the country? How long did it take their housing prices to double? And 68 cities saw it happen in less than 10 years. Uh, so prices have doubled in some as recently as 2019, which Detroit was one of those places. Homes in Miami and Tampa have doubled since 2018. Baltimore and Spokane, Washington, same thing. Buyers in Irvine, California, in the last 7 years have seen the prices go from 750 to 1.5 million. There's no going back, unfortunately.
No.
Even if prices fall 5%, 10% would be a huge correction historically. We're not going back. Michael
Mhm.
J. Fox, or Doc, we have to go back. That's not happening. Or no, was that Lost? Oh yeah, that was Jack. Did you ever get in
Yeah, we
Lost?
have to go. Yeah, I loved Lost. Big
Okay.
Lost guy.
Okay. Connor Sen had a good piece on how higher rates now are going to make housing worse in the future. Anyone thinking the Fed's going to fix the housing market, it's just not going to happen, unfortunately. Like whatever if the Fed raises rates, it's bad. If they lower rates, it's bad. He shows that they had this big boom in production, especially in apartment complexes, and you're seeing places like Austin where rents are falling because they built so many apartments. But now that rates have risen, basically the building is going down again, right? We had this a boom in new homes being made. We got a boom in apartment complexes. Higher rates make that hurdle rate way bigger to buy those, and the cap rates are way lower. So he says, with the labor market in good shape and large numbers of millennials still underhoused, shelter inflation could stay warmer than the Fed would prefer for years, with central bank policy itself being part of the problem. Meaning, if we're building fewer units now and you still have this demographic wave of millennials coming and Gen Z right behind them, that portion of inflation that's not going to help matters if we're not building enough. And having rates be higher now is going to set us up for more pain, whatever, 3 to 5 years down the line, which I completely agree with. There's no incentive for these builders to build with mortgage rates of 7%. This is going to be a problem for years and years to come with no
Yeah.
easy solution.
Yes, definitely one of the biggest stories in the economy. Ben, let me ask you this. Are you as surprised as I am that these gigantic companies can still be so volatile? Um, this person's Stock Talk Weekly tweeted, Meta was trading at 510 yesterday. It's trading at 410 today after earnings down 17%. This move constitutes a one-day loss of nearly $250 billion in market cap, which would be the worst single session value loss of any stock ever. And then you also have Tesla, another behemoth mega cap stock, up 31% in 4 days. What does this tell you about market efficiency or lack thereof? Or I don't know what I'm shocked. I mean, I guess I don't know if I should be or shouldn't be, but maybe not shocked, but just like, yeah, shocked that these gigantic stocks could just swing like that. It's just kind of wild to me.
It is weird that you can have a 1987 like crash in stocks that are this big, right? I think what this says is that you can never arbitrage out herd mentality. Like the herd mentality of piling in and piling out, you're never going to be able to change that. You're never going to make it more orderly when someone hits the buy or the sell button when there's a piece of news like this.
I guess that companies can, particularly after earnings, like that companies can, I don't know, that in not what companies can do, that investors can be shocked to this degree and have a
True.
17% sell-off in the after hours immediately following an earnings release is just it's just some mind-blowing shit.
With as many analysts that follow these companies and track them, and now we have satellites that track, uh, the supply chains and knowing as much as they know about companies now, way more than they did in the past. And yeah, you're right, and they still could be surprised.
Well,
It
this
is
also gets to the fact that like I think a lot of newer investors would maybe look at an earnings report or just see the headlines and like not understand how a company can beat on the top and bottom line, beat estimates and still go down, or the opposite situation. But there's two things. Number one is that if a company was up 90% over the last 12 months running into an earnings report, then obviously it's a buy the rumor, sell the news type of thing. But you could also have a thing where not only will a company like beat, but they'll have record revenue and record earnings. But
Right.
that doesn't matter because that already is in the price. The market already discounted that. It's always about guidance and looking forward. And I guess even with all the analysts in the world, like you don't know what a company is going to guide towards. How could you?
Right. The numbers, like you said, record numbers, but the CEO says one line and the stock drops 10% in 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's
Right?
not about what you just did. You don't get credit for what you already did.
Yeah. I guess that's
You
why it's so hard to trade in the short term, because it's all expectations based. Because
and that's yeah.
because when these companies when Meta and Netflix were down 70%, their numbers weren't great, but they were better than people expected, and then they shot up. And now it's the opposite. All right, we've talked for a while now about how like there's record amounts of net worth, and especially with people on the upper end. But not everyone. This is from the ARP. Someone sent this to me. About 1/4 of U.S. adults age 50 and older who are not yet retired say they expect to never retire. 70% are concerned about prices rising faster than their income. 1 in 4 have no retirement savings, according to research released by the ARP. So they're, even if the top 50, 60% is seeing massive gains in net worth, there's still people who are unfortunately never saved or being left behind for whatever reason, circumstances, bad luck, whatever. This is why Social Security is such an important benefit, though, because that's going to be the whole kit and caboodle for it. It has been for 25 to 50% of the people, pretty much. It's going to be the majority of their retirement
Is this the
income.
first time you've ever used Kit and Caboodle on the show?
It's possible. Yeah. Trying to keep you on your toes here.
It's a good phrase.
Anyway, just looking at the other side here. Okay, what else we got? Any of the random stories from California before I go into my coaching diatribe?
No. I do have one thing. We were it is funny like how people think about spending and what is an acceptable thing to spend money on and what isn't. I'll give you an example. Last night at dinner, we were talking about Robin and I going through the neighborhoods and just hopping on Zillow, and somebody might have been Duncan was like, Zillow should charge a monthly subscription fee to use the platform. And I was like, no, that's a terrible idea. Like they want as many users. They don't want to create any friction. They don't want they want as many users on the platform as possible. Like that's their business. And Duncan's like, you're telling me that you wouldn't pay a nominal fee for using Zillow? And I said, yeah, I am telling you that. I wouldn't pay $2.99 a month for Zillow, which sounds ridiculous, but I just wouldn't pay for it. Would you?
Yeah, I would. I love Zillow.
So do I. But if you're not in the market for a house, you would pay for Zillow for what?
The thrill. I don't know. There's something about it. I don't know. There's something about it. I'm like, you get hooked on it. But you're right. I probably would pay though.
But I'm just saying it's weird where people draw the line, right? Like I'm drawing the line at $3 for Zillow, and I'm just not doing it. Last night, another thing happened last night at dinner. This was as close as you could possibly get to saying something to the waiter. This is the topic of the show, right? When do you say something? When do you not? Kevin ordered a martini. And one of the great things about the martini is the glass, right? Ben, you know this.
Yes, it's a sales point, yes.
For not frequent listeners, Ben doesn't believe that the stem, or whatever the glass it's called, enhances the quality of the drink. And he's wrong. He's just wrong. It's part of the whole package, and it makes the drink taste better.
No, I say that the only reason people like martinis is because of the glass.
I mean, that's absurd. That's just an absurd statement.
If it was in a regular cup, you would not think a martini is nearly as good. If it was in a red Solo cup.
Agreed, because it wouldn't taste as good. It would not taste nearly as good. Anyhow, Kevin ordered a martini, and it came in like a glass. Like, it just came in like a a highball glass. It was very weird, and we were like laughing. Like, do you say like, hey, I was kind of hoping for a martini glass, and that's as close as the line to you could get to be like, I'm not going to say anything. Not gonna say anything.
Yes, I'm sure they have their reasons, but that's a weird choice. I agree.
Yeah, doesn't go there. All right,
All right,
so coaching. What's on your mind?
you do a lot of sports with your kids. We do, I don't know, soccer, football, basketball, baseball. We have a lot of different sports in our family, and we're transitioning a little bit from like parent only coaches to like actual coaches in some of these leagues, but still I've seen a lot of parent coaches. And
Whoa,
I
whoa,
just
whoa,
think that
whoa,
they're
whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm sorry. Actual coaches? What do you mean?
well, like someone who's not a parent coach. Like my daughter's on like some club soccer team. It'll be like an actual like a a coach who coaches and not necessarily just a parent,
Okay.
right?
And
Like a higher
she's what? She's almost 10?
she's 10.
Okay. All
Right,
right.
which seems excessive, but this is what happens.
Yeah.
This is what happens these days. I
Okay.
can complain about club sports later. So I've seen a lot of we started our kids pretty early, like I don't know, 4 years old or something, playing soccer, and so there's different types of coaches, and I've seen a lot of them. So the first one is I have no idea what I'm doing, just trying to survive here, right? The coach who obviously has never done this before, they're doing it because no one else volunteered, and their significant other like made them do it, and you can tell because the other parents get annoyed, and it's like, well, why didn't you do it? I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing here, right? That was me with baseball last year. I got roped into it. I have no idea. I'm not a baseball person.
We have one of those coaches. It's Kobe's team? Yeah, it's one of those coaches where the dad like he should. I mean, you know, he should not be coaching. And I
Yeah.
get it. I'm not. Listen, I don't want to do it, but he definitely shouldn't be doing it.
Yes. So that everyone has that. The other one is my kid is definitely going pro, and I'm giving them the damn ball every time. Right? Like if it's you kind of know like you're close to scoring. It's like, oh, coach's son's getting the ball here for sure. Right?
Yeah.
So there's that one, and there's also the one that the really hardo coach on his own kid, but very nice to the other kids, right? So they also secretly think their kid's going pro, so they're super duper hard on them, but they're very nice to the other kids because they have to go hard on their own kid, right? So those are kind of the coaches that I think those that kind of runs the gamut, right?
I'm not built for the like youth sports world. It's too intense for me.
It's a lot, isn't it? And
It's
it
just,
gets intense at a
it's very cringe. It's very cringe, and you learn a lot about people. It's like, didn't know that this guy was a psycho, right?
yes. I could do a whole other list of parents that you see at these games. Though
Yeah.
that's the weird part is the parents. Like the rule number one
Yeah,
is here's the two rules for kids. First of all, you never brag about your own kid besides to your spouse or maybe the grandparents. That's it. About anything, school, sports, no one ever wants to hear. I don't care if your child is a prodigy. People only want to hear about someone else's kids messing up. They never want to hear about them succeeding. Right? Like that's just, and I'm sure I've done this before, but you try not to. Number two is you literally can never say anything bad about someone else's kid in sports. Like, why didn't they do this? What are you thinking? It's only encouragement and cheer. You cannot like ever comment on another kid making a mistake.
Oh, you
The
definitely
occasional
keep all
like,
the kids'
"Ooh, you
names.
kicked it in the wrong goal, but you cannot say anything
No.
ever.
Yeah. Recently, somebody that I know was always saying how brilliant this person in their family was. Just brilliant for years, brilliant. And when it comes time for the person to go to college, the truth comes out. Let's just say that. Let's just say that.
Right. Yeah. I just, they're like, I mean, you've heard this before. Other parents who can't help but say, my kid is so gifted in this. They're the greatest player in this. At school, and I literally could care about nothing less than hearing about your kid's accomplishments. No one wants to hear it. No one ever I would never want to tell someone, and I'll catch myself if I think I'm doing it, that like, oh, my kid did this. No one cares. Maybe the
Yeah,
grandparents and your spouse. That's it.
in the no one cares universe, which is a big universe and probably deserves more attention than it gets, is like where this is even lower than fantasy football. Like nobody cares about your fantasy football team. Don't even.
This is even lower than
And
your dream you had last night. Dream, fantasy football, your kid's accomplishments. Right?
all right, Ben. So we up to recommendations. Oh wait, before we
Yes.
get there, I just want to point out. Hold on. Did you see Tom Brady's resume floating on the internet?
No.
Look, he's just like
Is this in
like
college?
me. Summer 1998, Polo Fields Golf and Country Club. He's a sales rep. Developed interpersonal skills and exemplified flexibility in order to better serve club members. Gained invaluable experience working under club I mean, this is all
Wait, Tommy was at
I mean,
Merrill Lynch?
he was an assistant senior. What did he learn? Let's see. Research stock. Oh, Tommy. Research stock and mutual fund reports while updating client portfolios. Gained knowledge of broker activity and day-to-day administrative duties. Now, he also happens to have elected team captain of the 1999 University of Michigan football team. Credit to him. So he did have some things that I didn't. That's for sure.
All right. Any good movies on the airplane?
I watched 2 movies. Anyone But You. Standard rom-com. Fun.
It's a good. I recommended it to someone this weekend, and they said like it felt like a throwback rom-com. That's how I described it too.
I watched ISS, International Space Station movie, and this is one of the great trailers where they're in space, the Russians and the US.
Oh, that's
By
right.
the
They
way,
see
a Russian
explosions on Earth.
yeah, a Russian astronaut's called cosmonauts, or did I make that up? Or what is a cosmonaut?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that a Russian astronaut?
You got it.
Is cosmonaut a Russian word, or is what we call them? Oh, wait. I don't know. Anyhow, the movie should have been great. They're on the spaceship and they see like a bunch of things blowing up.
No, that is a good
Earth.
point. Why aren't they just called astronauts instead of cosmonauts?
No
I got
idea.
Nothing. Okay.
Anyway, the movie was not good, unfortunately. It was watchable, but it was a great concept, bad movie. Okay. 2 things. Man, Delta, and I'm a shareholder, so I'm biased, but they've got their shit together, Ben. You can't find angels in the outfield, right? It's one of those movies that like just vanish from the ether. It's not on Prime, on Hulu. It's not on any of the services. You can't find it.
Yeah, I have a streaming app where I check. It's called like Just Watch, and some movies you'll type it in and it'll say it's not available anywhere. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Nowhere.
Yeah, guess what? If you want to watch Angels in the Outfield, get on a Delta flight because it's streaming right now in Delta. One more thing, you know the movie Kazam with Shaq?
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember years ago, Josh had told me it wasn't a real movie. They only like made a trailer and did like promo. It was fake. There was never an actually Kazam movie. I'm like, what? Is that real?
There's a
And
movie.
I was like, Josh convinced me. I don't know. I don't think he was. Josh convinced me that there wasn't a movie. Well,
Yeah,
guess what?
I watched it back in the day.
Kazam was on Delta.
Not great, right? Did your kids watch it?
No.
No, Shaq's movie career not that great. I finished 2 shows last week, and I think they're not for everyone, but I enjoyed both of them. I finished Ripley and I finished Shogun. Ripley's probably too slow for a lot of people. Black and white thing, I already complained. Got that out of my system. So here's my take. The movie, the first 2/3 of the movie were amazing, and I thought it kind of petered out at the end. This show wasn't as good at the beginning, but the end was way better than the movie. I like it. The further it went along, the more I liked it. Shogun.
Wait, hold on. Somebody emailed us about a great black and white recommendation. You've must have seen 12 Angry Men, like in high school or something.
No. What year did it come out?
Really? I don't know.
I've heard of this movie. If it's pre-1970, I'm not watching it.
50s?
Sorry. And then I also finished Shogun, which I thought didn't quite live up to the hype of like the first episode or two. And it's the kind of show you definitely have to pay attention to because there's a lot of subtitles. And it's also a little hard to follow, like, because they kind of have some twists. But I thought it was really well done. And the Japanese people are very principled. It's like, listen, I was disloyal to you for 2 minutes. I'm going to cut out all my guts and I want you to chop my head off. Because that's what we do. Like, they follow their principles and they're like to a T.
They have honor. They have honor. You know who has no honor? StubHub.
That's true. They would not kamikaze themselves. I remember my parents watched The Godfather Part 3 for the first time in the 1990s whenever it came out and just hated it because the first 2 were so great. I, for some reason, never watched the third part. And so I finally, it was on Paramount Plus and I watched it. And I know it's been panned for years and years. And I thought, I got to give it a try. That can't be that bad. It's that bad. It's just everything anyone's ever said about it is true. It's just it makes no sense compared to the other 2 movies. It's awful. Waste of time. Don't watch The Godfather Part 3.
I never will.
Okay.
You have my
what
word.
Did you say the best airplane movie ever is here?
Oh. So this is on Delta. I did not watch it, but I've only seen this movie once, and it was on an airplane 10 years ago. Focus. You ever see
With
that
Will
Will
Smith?
Smith movie?
I've seen it multiple
Is
times.
Margot
Good
Robbie
movie.
in that?
Yep.
I've only seen it on the airplane, but I feel like that, if I had to describe like the perfect airplane movie, that's near the top of the list.
I love a good con artist / heist movie. That was a good one.
Very good.
Okay, how much longer are you in LA for?
We fly out Wednesday morning.
All right. Good luck fighting with StubHub the rest of the week. I hope you cool off a little bit. Go have yourself a Bloody Mary to feel better. Tomato juice doesn't do it for me. Sorry. Bloody Marys are overrated.
No, tomato juice is gross, but Bloody Marys are great.
Okay. Animal Spirits Pod. No, what is it? Shoot. Animal
Spirits at the compoundnews.com.
See you next time.